Alright, so Kanye has recently gone on a tirade on Twitter, saying all kinds of nonsense, praising a certain German chancellor from last century, and also claiming to be a member of the National Socialist German Workers' Party. This is all some nonsense and everything he said before. What really stuck out to me, or what I really went against this video, is him saying he wants Diddy to be free. Now, what's interesting about this is that he and Diddy aren't even on the best of terms anyway. So the thing is, back last year or something, when he went to this anti-media tour, Diddy apparently tried to message him and he got mad about that, calling him a Fed. So there's no way these guys are on the same side in general. And when I first saw this tweet, I was thinking, okay, this isn't necessarily worse than he said before, but it just doesn't make much sense. The only angle I could get from this is that he just sees Diddy's getting hated by people and he's like, oh, let me just support the person who people hates. That's kind of why he likes the German chancellor in the first place. But at the same time, it's like, I feel like there's a limit to it, especially when it's someone you personally don't like. Not necessarily that you'd want to join the bandwagon or whatever, but I feel like you wouldn't be someone who just wants to jump out and say, hey, this person I already hated beforehand, now that you hate him too, I like him now. As low IQ as Kanye is, first of all, you said 80% of this stuff in the past anyway, so whatever. But second, honestly, I'm hoping he was hacked, because this is just too much. Not too far, too much. He's tweeting too much. It's just annoying. So, at least if he's hacked, we can just disregard these 1,000 tweets of well, what's going on with his mind state? We know he's a weirdo. But we don't have to have a million tweets saying it over and over again in different ways. I will say though, on this is real, you have to ask yourself a couple things. Kanye doesn't care about controversy if he really means it at a time. If he actually believes that America should be destroyed or something, he's just gonna say it. He's not gonna walk it back. I mean, he might walk it back sometime later, but he's not gonna walk back the same day and be like, oh, I got pressed by everyone, I'm going too far. That's something he would do in a month or something, not the same day. One thing that's interesting about these tweet tirades, him going on a media tour, is I've always looked at it oh, he is about to go on a media tour because he knows he's working on an album and he wants some attention before the album comes out, so that he has an audience already built up. This basically is album rollout in general. But now I'm starting to think I feel instead of the album being the cause of these tirades, not this specifically, but just his tirades in general, what if they just both come from the same place, which is manic state? Instead, what if it's the case that he just gets manic off of whatever and starts doing the most, but then in the same state where he's doing the most, tweeting all this stuff and going on a media tour, he's also feeling musically inspired. So then that's when he starts actually working on his music and actually starts trying to put it out as soon as possible. This may not be a thing where he's just specifically calculating beforehand, oh, I know exactly what to say to make everyone mad at me, and I'm just gonna do it so I can get all the attention on me. It may be a thing where he just gets manic and then decides to make the album at the same time because he just is building up the momentum of his creativity. And this all being said, there have been times where he's been on these weird tirades and then nothing came of it. He didn't even drop an album afterwards. So it's not like it's always been completely well rehearsed and scripted what he'd say in every interval. I don't think it's that much of a stretch to think that he may or may not be just doing this specifically for an album. An album is probably going to come out because he is more active when he's on these rants. But I'm just saying, I don't think it's necessarily just a move to make him trend when an album's coming out. Honestly, I haven't gone through his Twitter since the beginning of time. So I'm not really, I'm sure people who actually follow him with their life and would jump in front of a train for him, all those guys, I feel they would really recognize his tweeting style. They should cross-reference the nonsense he said this morning with what he's done in the past and see how much it correlates or how much it matches, because maybe it's not the same. Maybe what he's doing now is a little different enough to be yeah, he actually is hacked, or maybe he actually is hacked, but the person hacking him is a super Kanye dick sucker, so they actually know everything he would say every time, so they perfectly match what he'd say. When I say what he'd say, I don't just mean the words oh, I like this person. I'm they match how he'd say it too, the word choice and everything. And if that's the case, then, Kanye actually might be in some... We might actually have to defend Kanye here because he may have caused all this controversy in the first place by being a weirdo. But at the same time, if he's learned from his anti-Hebrew ways after watching 21 Jump Streets. Also, it's interesting how Diddy's will cost the line for all these people. They're I could stand you being on the wrong side of World War II and everything. I could stand you not liking everything. I could stand you being the most anti-everything person ever, but because you defended Diddy, now all that goes on the window. Not to say Diddy should be defended, he shouldn't. But like, it's also interesting because Diddy has been like a criminal of the highest order for like the past 3 decades. He has been behind all these atrocities in the rap game, and he has been publicly putting himself behind known murderers and the worst people. But like, only in the past couple of years has he been actually seen as like the supervillain he's been publicly. And again, that's cool. But just from all the people who've been seeing him do this nonsense for years, it must be like really like all of a sudden now, this is the day like it all comes out. He actually becomes known for what he's been doing for decades. But then a layer on top of that is like, not only is like after he's done his reign of terror for like 3 decades, now people care about it. And then now people care more about this than like him defending the guys who started a world war. It's just, I don't know. Like all this stuff coming together is like very interesting to see how people prioritize things and how people like order what matters to them and what doesn't matter to them. And I don't want to get too deep into politics ever or anything, but you'll notice that one thing I don't like about Kanye shouting out the, German Worker Party is that it's one thing to be on the far right, because there are very smart people on the far right, but Kanye's like dumb about it. If you saw what Kanye was saying, like back in his like Alex Jones days, he was saying nonsense like, I'm not Jewish, I'm Jew, as if like these words come from English. As if the English etymology of these terms has anything to do with the actual ideas behind the terms. But like this person tweeting seems to have a more solid grasp on the nature of Hebrews and Europeans. I'll say that. Like this person seems to actually understand like a little more about what is going on between the races. Not at a certain level where I would actually respect it. My thought was, I guess Kanye actually went back and read some literature, he like actually stumbled across that book by the Austrian painter called My Struggle and actually saw what it had to say instead of just reading stuff that people are tweeting about it or just reading what random TikTokers and YouTubers say about it. But even still, like if Kanye himself tweeted all that stuff, you have to do a little more research. You have to actually read the book a little more because you seem to be under the impression that this Hebrew-Aryan war started after World War II, when in reality, it's been going on for hundreds of years. If it does exist, it's been going on for hundreds of years. So, not gonna give you all the props, but I will say, in your journey to the far right, you are improving. You are getting the better talking points, and obviously, it'd be best if you weren't on this train. But if you're gonna be on the train, at least know as run. Like, at least know the talking points. At least know exactly what these people believe. Because the worst thing ever is seeing anybody on any political aisle, whether it's like far right or far left or liberal, whatever it is, and they like literally don't even understand the basic ideology behind it. They just hear like buzzwords on Twitter or TikTok, and that's what they come across. And they're like, yeah, I'm just going to repeat what this person says in a way they didn't even say it. Like, that's the real problem. And again, I don't even support the extremists, but if you're going to be anything, please know what you're talking about, or at least please like actually research what you're saying and not research like a blog that you found like on Google search. I mean, actually go through like a library of sources and see what people back then had to say about it.